Welcome back, everyone. English for electrical engineering is our topic. What is electricity? Our objectives are to learn about where electricity comes from. We are going to look at the definition of potential difference for electric circuits, and we are going to study different voltage types as well. Now, the way we are going to work on this topic is we are going to read 3 different texts and we are going to answer some comprehension questions about the text, and at the end of the lesson there will be a quick quiz to practice or to check our understanding of the topic. So let's start with our first text right here. We're going to read it first and then label the picture first and answer a couple of questions or fill in the missing words on the next slide. So, let's read it first. All substances, solids, liquids, or gases are composed of one or more of the chemical elements. Each element is composed of identical atoms. Each atom is composed of a small central nucleus consisting of protons and neutrons around which orbit shells of electrons. These electrons are very much smaller than protons and neutrons. The electrons in the outermost shell are called valence electrons, and the electrical properties of the substance depend on the number of these electrons. Neutrons have no electric charge, but protons have a positive charge, while electrons have a negative charge. In some substances, usually metals, the valence electrons are free to move from one atom to the other, and this is what constitutes an electric current. Now our first task is to label the picture with the name of each part. Number 1 is the electron. Number 2, hopefully you guessed right, is the proton. And then number 3 will be the neutron. Right. Our next task on the next slide reads have a look at the text again and complete the sentences with the missing information. Now, if you have the worksheet with you, then you can go back and forth, go back to the previous page and find the sentences with the missing information. I'm just going to show you the answers here. So, elements make up all substances. Identical atoms compose each element. Atoms consist of neutrons, protons, and electrons. Which of these are inside and which of these are outside? So inside are the neutrons and protons, while outside you will find, I can get this to work, the electrons of course, but okay, here we go. Yeah, electrons, as I said. Right, next one. 4 more sentences. Shells of electrons orbit around the nucleus. Valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost shell. Neutrons do not have any electric charge, and electricity is generated when the valence electrons are free to move from one atom to another. That was our first task. Let us move on to our second text. So we are going to read this text and we're going to have to check. We're going to look at the sentences on the next slide and decide whether the statements there are true or false. Okay, if you have the worksheet with you right now, then this will first be a listening task, but let's just read it now and answer the questions on the next page. Okay, so electricity consists of a flow of free electrons along a conductor. To produce this current flow, a generator is placed at the end of the conductor to move the charge. Conductors. Electricity needs a material that allows a current to pass through easily, which offers little resistance to the flow and is full of free electrons. This material is called a conductor and can be in the form of a bar, tube, or sheet. The most commonly used conductors are wires, available in many sizes and thicknesses. They are coated with insulating materials such as plastic. Semiconductors. Semiconductors such as silicon and germanium are used in transistors, and their conductivity is halfway between a conductor and an insulator. Small quantities of other substances called impurities are introduced to the material to reduce conductivity. And finally, insulators. A material which contains very few electrons is called an insulator. Glass, rubber, dry wood, and plastic resist the flow of electric charge and as such are good insulating materials. Let's take a quick look at our sentences. Once again, our task is to decide whether they are true or false. A flow of electrons moving inside a conductor creates an electric current. This, of course, is true. A generator is used to move the charges. Hopefully you are all shouting true at the screen right there. Electrons can easily pass through any material. That, of course, is wrong. The whole idea was conductors, semiconductors, and insulators was that based on the material. There's some materials, the electrons can pass through some materials more easily than others. Any material is a good conductor. That's just a paraphrasing of number 3. So similarly to number 3, this will also be false. Conductors are coated with insulators, and that is true. The presence of free electrons affects the conductivity of materials. That is true once again. Impurities are introduced to increase conductivity. Hopefully you are all saying that this one is wrong, because the correct would be to reduce conductivity. Insulating materials resist the flow of electrons. That's true. That's actually the definition of insulating materials. Excellent. So true, true, false, false, true, true, false, true. Right. We've got one more text to have a quick look at. Let's just go through this one right here. So there are two types of current: direct current, DC, or alternating current, AC, AC-DC. Direct current is a continuous flow of electrons in one direction, and it never changes its direction until the power is stopped or switched off. Alternating current, on the other hand, constantly changes its direction because of the way it is generated. The term frequency is used to indicate how many times the current changes its direction in 1 second. Alternating current has a great advantage over direct current because it can be transmitted over very long distances through small wires by making energy high voltage but low current. There are several quantities that are important when we are talking about electric current. Volts, so named after the Italian physicist Alessandro Volta, measure the difference of electric potential between 2 points on a conducting wire. Amperes measure the amount of current flowing through a conductor, that is to say, the number of electrons passing a point in a conductor in 1 second. Coulomb measure the quantity of charge transferred in 1 second by a steady current of 1 ampere. Power is the rate at which work is performed and is measured in watts. A kilowatt, which is equal to 1000 watts, is used to measure the amount of used or available energy. The amount of electrical energy consumed in 1 hour at a constant rate of 1 kilowatt is called kilowatt hour or kilowatt per hour. Right. we've got a chart that we need to fill in. Unit of measurement on the left, and what does it measure on the right. So number of electrons passing a given point in a conductor in 1 second will be ampere. The quantity of electricity transferred by a steady current of 1 ampere, that will be coulomb. The amount of energy used will be kilowatt. The difference of potential between 2 points on a conductor, that will be volts, and the rate at which work is done will be watt. Right, so these were our 3 texts to read and answer the comprehension questions based on. Now we have got a quick quiz to complete. 10 questions right here. So the quantity of electricity transferred by a steady current of 1 ampere is measured in, I'm going to leave you a second there, coulomb is the correct answer. Right. Oh, am I going backwards? Yeah. Okay. Right here. Atoms consist of protons, neutrons, and nucleus, volts, electrons, or elements. Hopefully you are all screaming electrons at the screen right there. What is the unit of amount of energy used? Kilowatt is the correct answer. Electrons can easily pass through any material. Is that statement true or false? Any material? Not any material. False. The number of electrons passing a given point in a conductor per second is measured in coulomb, kilowatt, volt, or ampere. Okay, so here it is. Ampere is the correct answer. Measured in ampere or amperes. The difference of potential between 2 points on a conductor is measured in, so difference of potential, ampere, kilowatt, coulomb, or volt. When we talk about difference of potential, the correct answer is volt or volts. Any material is a good conductor. We know that that is false. The presence of free electrons affects the conductivity of materials. Is this statement true or false? This statement is true. 2 more questions. A continuous flow of electrons in one direction is called frequency, alternating, or direct current. It is, of course, direct current in one direction only. Right, we've got one more. If I can, yeah, here we go. Insulating materials resist the flow of electrons. Is that false or true? Insulating materials will indeed, let me see if I can get through it, resist the flow. Yes, that answer, that's true as well. Okay, and that was our last quiz question, and that was our quick session on what is electricity. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.